Have you ever just sat there and wondered what's really going on inside your computer? You know, when it feels lightning fast one minute and then painfully slow the next? Well, it pretty much all boils down to two things: memory and storage. And yeah, they sound kind of the same, but they do completely different jobs. So let's get into it and clear this up once and for all.
Just think about this for a sec. You're typing away, getting your thoughts down, and then you hit that beautiful, all-important save button. Phew, the document is safe. But where did it go? It's not magic, right? That whole process, it's the perfect dance between memory and storage, and by the end of this, you're going to know exactly how it works. You know, the easiest way to wrap your head around this is to imagine your computer has two different kinds of brains. Seriously, it needs one brain for working on stuff right now, that's its short-term active brain, and it needs another place to put things away for safekeeping, its long-term archival brain.
And that brings us to my absolute favorite analogy for this whole thing: the desk versus the filing cabinet. See, memory is your desk. It's where you spread out all the papers and tools you're currently using. Everything is right there, super fast to grab. But it's temporary, right? You're not going to leave it there forever. Storage, on the other hand, that's your big filing cabinet. It's where you put things when you're done with them. It might take a second longer to find and pull something out, but it's safe, it's organized, and it's permanent.
All right, so let's start with the desk, that temporary workspace. In the world of computers, we call this primary memory. And it's all about one thing: speed. It's about what's happening this very second. The main part of this workspace, the surface of your desk, is called RAM. That stands for Random Access Memory. Anytime you open an app, browse a website, or edit a photo, all that information you're actively working with gets loaded right into RAM. Why? So your computer's processor can get to it pretty much instantly.
Okay, so what makes RAM so special? Well, the most important thing to know is that it's volatile. And that's just a fancy way of saying if you turn off the power, everything on your desk, everything in RAM, is gone. Poof, vanished. That's also why it's so much faster than storage. And it's why having more of it usually makes your computer feel way snappier.
This is exactly why having more RAM is like having a bigger desk. I mean, with a tiny little desk, you can maybe work on one, maybe two things before it gets totally messy and you have to keep swapping stuff around. But with a huge desk, you can have a dozen projects spread out all at once and just glide between them. That, right there, is why more RAM is the key to smooth multitasking.
But wait, it gets even faster. There's another layer called cache memory. Now you can think of this as a tiny, super specialized corner of your desk for the things you're grabbing constantly. It's way smaller than RAM, but oh my gosh, the speed is just incredible.
So the best way to picture cache is like a sticky note you put right on your monitor. If there's a piece of info your computer needs over and over and over again, it just keeps a copy in the cache. It's the absolute fastest thing to grab. It saves the computer from even having to look across the desk, the RAM, to find it. And that is why reopening an app is often so much faster the second time around.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on that busy, fast-paced desk. Now let's talk about the filing cabinet, the place you put things when you need them to stick around for the long haul. In computer speak, this is secondary storage.
And the key word here is non-volatile. So unlike RAM, when you shut down your computer, everything in here stays exactly where it is. This is where your operating system, your apps, your photos, and of course your saved documents live permanently. The trade-off? It's a bit slower, but you get way more space for your stuff. Now, that filing cabinet comes in a few different flavors these days. You've got the classic magnetic hard disk drives, or HDDs. Then you've got the modern, super-fast, solid-state drives, or SSDs. They're the older optical disks, like CDs and DVDs. And of course, you've got the cloud, which is really just someone else's giant filing cabinet that you get to use over the internet.
The two you'll almost always find inside a computer today are HDDs and SSDs. An HDD is totally mechanical. It's got this spinning platter and an arm that reads the data, kind of like a tiny record player or an old Rolodex. An SSD, though, it has zero moving parts. It uses flash memory, which makes it silent, way more durable, and just dramatically faster. And trust me, that difference in speed, it's not some tiny thing you won't notice. It's something you feel every single day. A computer with an SSD boots up, launches programs, and opens files in just a fraction of the time it takes one with an old-school hard drive. It is an absolute game changer.
So, how do all these pieces, the sticky notes, the desk, the filing cabinet, how do they all work together? Well, they form a kind of hierarchy, a pyramid really, and it's all built on this constant trade-off between speed, size, and of course, cost. This table just lays it all out nice and simple. Primary memory, your RAM, is incredibly fast, but it's volatile. Its capacity is pretty limited, and it's more expensive for every gigabyte you get. Secondary storage is the total opposite. Slower, but it's non-volatile, it has massive capacity, and it's much, much cheaper. Your computer absolutely needs both to work properly. And here it is, the whole shebang, the full memory hierarchy. Right at the very top, literally inside the processor chip itself, you have these tiny, ridiculously fast things called registers. Just below that, you've got your cache, then your main RAM, then your internal storage, like an SSD or HDD, and way down at the bottom is cloud storage. The slowest to get to, but for all practical purposes, it's infinite. Your computer is constantly shuffling data up and down this pyramid to keep things running as fast as possible.
Now, to really get a grip on the scale we're talking about, especially with storage, we gotta start with the absolute basics. It all begins with a single byte, which is made up of 8 bits. Those are the simple ones and zeros of all digital information. But from there, believe me, the numbers get big fast. Things just scale up like crazy. A gigabyte is roughly 1,000 megabytes, and a terabyte is about 1,000 gigabytes. But look at that jump. It's exponential. A single terabyte is more than 1,000,000 times larger than a single megabyte. That's the mind-boggling scale we're dealing with in storage today.
So, okay, after all that technical stuff, why should you actually care about the difference between your computer's desk and its filing cabinet? Well, because understanding this directly affects your day-to-day experience, and honestly, it makes you a much smarter tech user.
Look, this isn't just theory. This stuff directly affects how fast your computer feels. It's what decides how many browser tabs you can have open before everything just grinds to a halt. It's literally the reason your files are still there when you turn your computer back on. And this is a big one. Knowing the difference helps you make way better decisions when you're buying a new machine. So, if there's one thing you take away, let it be this. The next time your computer is struggling with too many apps open at once, you'll know that's a RAM issue. Your desk is just too cluttered. And if you are frustrated with how long it takes to just start up in the morning, you'll know an SSD would solve that problem. It's the difference between a cluttered desk and a slow filing cabinet.
And that leaves us with one final thing to chew on. We've seen that whole pyramid, right? From the fastest little bits inside the chip all the way down to the slowest, biggest layer, the cloud. So as more and more of our filing cabinets move from a physical box on our desk to some server farm hundreds of miles away, what does it really mean to own a file anymore? Something to think about.